Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Anyway, I'm here today to tell you about the sentencing of this man, Paul Doyle. And this was the man who, for some unknown reason, best known to him, really, decided to completely ruin the celebrations of the Liverpool fans last year when Liverpool won the Premier League for the first time in quite a long time. And they were all out in Liverpool in the UK celebrating. The bus had gone through with the players on, holding the trophy up, been ticker tape and celebrations. There were families, there were people of all ages. And this man, I think he's a candidate actually for the Twonk of the Year this year, the Vicky Marie Chats Twonk of the Year. This man somehow got through the cordon to where all the pedestrians were, followed behind an ambulance that had gone down where all the pedestrians were going on their way home, and he sneaked through the cordon. Somebody had a medical emergency, the ambulance went through, and he snuck through the cordon, and then realised he wasn't going fast enough for him, so he decided he was just going to mow everybody down and get them out of the way. And he was indiscriminate in his aggression and anger. There were children, pushchairs, older people, younger people, families, black people, white people, all religions. It was completely indiscriminate. He was just caused carnage and mayhem, and just was so lucky, and they were all lucky, but he was lucky too, that he's not actually facing murder charges. He's facing attempted murder charges, because although there were some very severe injuries, nobody died. It's an absolute miracle. I think Liverpool fans can think that God was looking after them a little bit that day, because there were so many injuries. How nobody died, I don't know. And of course, he was lucky he didn't die, and he was lucky he wasn't set upon by the fans. He was lucky that the police got to him first, because you can imagine, in all that hullabaloo, it was thought it was a terrorist attack, of course, at first. People were out there on their social media, casting aspersions on everybody. See how quiet they went when they realised it was a guy called Paul Doyle, an ex-Marine, a normal family guy, your average guy in the street. Wasn't, the usual suspect. So, yeah, it all went a bit quieter after that, didn't it? Anyway, also what we have to remember about this complete twonk is initially pled not guilty, made up some ridiculous story about what had happened, and it's only later that he pled guilty. So what's happening at the moment is we're in the sentencing phase. So it started yesterday. I'm going to read you just a summary of what happened yesterday, and it's continuing today. It may not finish while I'm on this live, because there are so many victim impact statements, so many victims of this crime, that's going to take a long time to go through them all. So I think they're expecting to finish today, but whether they will finish today, I don't know. But I'm just going to give you an update on what happened yesterday, go through what's happened today. And as I say, I may not be able to still be here with you as the actual sentence comes. But I will definitely, if I'm not able to be there for that, I will definitely, let you know where it is later. We'll see how it goes, see how quickly they get through. So they've had a day of victim impact statements yesterday, another day today. They're expecting it to last 2 days, but sometimes these things can last longer. It may even go over to tomorrow, mightn't it? So we'll see. So anyway, first of all, just want to say thank you to all my followers. Please remember to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. It's completely free. And like the video and share it if you can. Again, these are all free ways you can help my channel if you feel so inclined. A very special thank you to my members who are like the mainstay of my channel. Every Thursday we have an exclusive members live, and it'll be the same this Thursday. What else? Thank you to those of you who've bought me Ko-fis, sent super stickers, PayPal'd me, emailed me. I've been a bit slow with my emails, I'm afraid. I got quite despondent yesterday. There was so much bad news coming out, and I know, just the Bondi Beach sort of attacks, another kind of attack, different from this one, but the result is the same. Well, people actually died in that one. Why are people so horrible to each other? And then, of course, there was Rob Rayner and his wife being killed by their son. And there's been so many things just in the clutch of days. And of course, it's coming up to Christmas. I hope you're all getting ready for Christmas. I hope you're going to enjoy it, whatever, religion you are, or, if you don't celebrate it as a religious occasion, I hope you're going to enjoy being with friends or family. And if not, being with your dogs maybe, or, just do something nice, whether you're on your own even for Christmas, and that can be depressing. But having said that, it can be quite sort of peaceful, can't it? So, whatever you're doing at Christmas, look after you, treat yourself. Don't forget to treat yourself as well as other people, because as I often say, you are the most important person, because often you're the one who's keeping everybody else going, who's keeping it all up there. So don't forget to be kind to yourself as well, not only other people. Okay, so let me take my banner off. Hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about these victims in this attack. As I say, I can't put him in the hellhole because he hasn't killed anybody. But that is literally by good luck that he didn't kill anybody. He had no even thought as to whether he was going to kill. He just didn't care. It's a very strange thing, this. And apparently, I don't know if he had any drugs or alcohol in his system. But, these are not the actions of somebody logical, especially someone like this. So, it's maybe just had a complete and utter breakdown. We don't know the things that are going on in his life. But the worst thing as well, though, is that he tried to lie about it. He pled not guilty. Finally, he's pled guilty. So he hasn't put his victims through the torment of a trial, but they're getting their opportunity to say how they feel about what happened to them. And he's so many people affected. I mean, hundreds of people, not only the ones that were actually injured, but everyone who was there. And then the people that were worrying about them before they could find out if they were okay or not. So anyway, horrible man. Definite contender for Twonk of the Year, in my opinion. So, hi, lovely. Shh. So don't forget to let me know what you think. What do you think the sentence will be? What sentence does he deserve, in your opinion? And I don't know what precedent is for this. It's a very strange case, so I've no idea what sentence he'll get. I hope he gets a long sentence, to be honest, because as I say, it would have been so easy for this to be a murder case. Right, what else do I want to say? So, oh yeah, hi, lovely lurkers. Thank you so much for watching. Hi to Replay Crew. Thank you for watching. And let's see, I think there's a couple of you in the chat. Oh, no, it's David. Oh, thank you, David. Only ever answer an email when you have the time. Yeah. And sometimes it's not only not having the time. Just yesterday in particular, I was just sort of social media now. It was just all bad news. So I'm hoping we had a little bit of good news yesterday, because Brian Walsh was found guilty of first-degree murder, so I'm looking forward to his sentence. And I'm hoping that this guy will get a long sentence. So you're saying 12 to 15 years. It doesn't seem enough, that, to me somehow, because I know nobody died, but it was an accident that nobody died, wasn't it? This could literally be, he could be looking at a murder charge for at least 20 people, So, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what the precedents are. I don't know what the judge will be thinking, whether they're going to take in mental health issues. I just don't know. Hi, Lily. Yeah, I can honestly say I have no idea. I think you're probably right, about 15 years. I hope it is 15 years at least, because as I say, even though he didn't kill anyone, could easily have killed people, couldn't he? So, yeah. I feel for his family as well. His family are victims. I think apparently he said to the police when he was arrested, "I've ruined my family's life." Well, yeah, you have. And the only person who's done that is him. There was no reason for him to do what he did. But anyway, let's have a look what he did have to say. So if we go to the summary, there was a summary. Am I on the right one that I want to be on? Let me just check. Yeah. So I want to look. So this is the summary of day one. Okay, so rather than read through all of day one, because as I said, there's a lot of victims here. So we've heard plenty of information at Liverpool Crown Court today. Here's a recap of what was said. Prosecutors said that 54-year-old Paul Doyle used his vehicle as a weapon when he drove through crowds of Liverpool supporters attending a parade on the 26th of May. And dismissing any terrorist linked to the attack, they said the defendant had simply lost his temper, trying to get somewhere before driving into the crowd in a rage. So truly shocking dashcam footage from Doyle's car, which brought gasps and tears in court. We may get to see that in the end, I'm not sure. Showed the defendant shouting angrily and beeping his horn as the car hit pedestrians in the crowd. So ex-soldier Daniel Barr jumped into the back of his car and placed the vehicle into park, with the prosecution describing him as a hero who possibly prevented many more injuries. But despite the intervention and some people being underneath his car, people were actually underneath his car, the defendant continued to keep his foot on the accelerator in an attempt to keep ploughing into the crowd. Amongst those knocked to the floor was a pram carrying a 6-month-old baby who miraculously avoided injury. I mean, that is, it deserves 10 years just for that, in my opinion. So maybe I hope it's more than 15 years. So forced into a police van after the attack, Doyle said, "I've just ruined my family's life." Oh, not how's the baby then? How's the baby that I've just mowed down? I've just ruined my family's life. These people, they're so selfish. So he's only thinking of his family. What about all those families he's just ruined their lives? What, come on. Oh, God, I hope he gets a long sentence. Please, God. He then gave a false and distorted account of what happened in his first police interview, prosecutors said, including claims that a knife-wielding man had approached his car. He could not see properly and there were no police officers in the vicinity of his car. So, he's making excuses. He was probably that knife-wielding man. He would probably say he was a Muslim or something. This man, he tried, not only what he did, but he's tried to lie his way out of it. A 12-year-old child described the attack as the worst day of my life. Imagine being 12 years old and seeing all that in one of dozens of victim impact statements. Another victim said they kept seeing bodies flying here, there, and everywhere. And after the attack, while Ukrainian refugee Anna Belozenko said the attack felt like losing our safety all over again. So this is what happened yesterday. And it's only a summary of what happened yesterday. Now I have here somewhere a video of the attack that maybe we can, I just want to show you in case you haven't seen it or to refresh people's memories. This is a video of the actual attack. So, I thought there was going to be adverts, but there's not. So look, he's going through the crowd there, and then he gets sort of stuck, and he just plows through everybody. Look. This is what he did. And now they've blocked off a lot of it. But there were just people flying up in the air. And he said there were no police nearby, but there's police everywhere. The police were there to restrain people. He was lucky. So, you know, it's, why did that just flick off? So, whereas just a couple of hours before, this is how it had been. You know, the bus going round, all the fans there, hours again. You know, I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I can imagine that was a pretty, what's the word, you know, a pretty emotional day. Let's go back to Sky News. So that's a recap of what happened yesterday. And now we're going to start from the live coverage that started this morning. So the 54-year-old will be jailed today. They're expecting the sentencing today, you know, so I don't know how many more victim impact statements they've got to get through, but there's a lot of victims, so there'll be a lot of impact statements. He was previously warned by the recorder of Liverpool Judge Andrew Menery Casey that a long prison sentence was inevitable. Yesterday, we heard from prosecutors how Doyle had used his vehicle as a weapon after losing his temper amongst the crowds of pedestrians. The defendant was eventually stopped after ex-soldier Daniel Barr bravely jumped onto the back of his car, but Doyle had continued to keep his foot on the accelerator. We also heard dozens of powerful victim impact statements, more of which will be read out this morning. So here he is after his arrest, looking a bit worse for wear. I think, you know, it looks like he's got some cuts and scratches. So, yeah, I think I've just read that more or less. Prosecutors described him as a family man who lost his temper when he went to collect a friend and their family from the event in Liverpool city centre. How odd. You know, he's gone there to collect a friend of his and his family and done that. In a rage, he drove into the crowd, and when he did so, he intended to cause people within the crowd serious harm. His Ford Galaxy, which weighed nearly 2 tons, collided with well over 100 people in the space of 2 minutes. Goodness me. So we're first hearing a victim impact statement from a mother of a baby who was injured in the attack. She was also injured and says she lives in constant fear of being injured again and has been diagnosed with PTSD. I relive the moment of the collision repeatedly, she says, especially the moment Paul Doyle's car hit the pram with her child in it. The horror of not knowing if he was dead or alive will live with me forever, she says. I hold him tighter and I love him harder, knowing how easily he could have been taken away. And the woman says in the statement being read to the court, it's changed how I see the world, how I interact with others, and how I see my child. I just think you'd never want to be in a crowd again, would you? If you'd been there and lived through that, you know, you just wouldn't ever want to go where there was a crowd again. Hey, Tia, come here. Stop making a noise. Then we've got another one. One female victim describes in her statement the lasting trauma she incurred from the attack. I've not yet felt able to return to the city of Liverpool, she says, adding she does not know when she'll be able to return to her city. Then the mum of an 11-year-old victim. This dog is determined to disrupt this stream. She just loves disrupting. Tells how she's eating now, so you'll hear the chomping now. How he used to be full of energy, curiosity and joy. She says on the good days there is hope, but the bad days are full of fear, anxiety and sadness. The nightmares are the worst, she says in the victim impact statement read in court. He wakes up crying, reliving the incident. So an 11-year-old boy, now he wakes up crying, reliving this incident. One victim describes that the incident has made them fearful of everyday interactions surrounding cars and roads. Crossing the road has become something that scares me. If I see a car far away, I don't want to cross. And the incident was something they will always be reminded of. Another victim, a 26-year-old male teacher caught up in the attack. The incident has taken a massive toll on me. I'm getting tired, feeling tired and drained constantly due to the lack of sleep I'm getting. And he said he finished his day in school exhausted, pretending to be happy. And he said, in my personal life, I lost motivation to take part in my hobbies. I do things I would usually enjoy. So now we've got another one, a victim impact from a 37-year-old man on behalf of him and his 12-year-old stepson. They were both injured in the attack, and he says they've been left scarred with a bad experience after coming to celebrate their favourite team. I mean, the thing is, that day, it should have been a day of celebration, wasn't it, for Liverpool fans? You know, all those years in the wilderness. And then winning the championship, and this was the victory parade. It should have been a day to remember. Well, it'll be a day to remember, but not for the right reasons, will it? You know, it should have been a day to remember, you know, for the excitement of it, for the fabulousness of it. Instead, it's a day to remember for the horror of it. And as I say, absolute miracle. The miracle of miracles, in my opinion, that nobody was killed. So he says it was the first time his stepson ever went to Liverpool and he doesn't want to go back. This has definitely installed a fear in me that I never knew existed, he said. And we've got Hannah O'Neill, 30, says she's been left scared, lonely, overwhelmed. Her confidence has been shattered. She struggles to work and her wedding plans have been put on hold. And she says in the statement, she tells Doyle he left her feeling degraded and pathetic. She says she went from someone thriving in her life and career to someone pushing food around a plate, wondering if there's any point in eating at all. Now, it's endless, really, isn't it? Because, you know, so many victims. Here we've got a man, 73-year-old Stefan Detlef. His 74-year-old wife, Hilda, was also caught in the accident. I thought my wife of 54 years was dead, he says in his victim statement. He said he thought he would never get the chance to say goodbye to his children and how unfair life is. And he describes how it's affected him since. I was a strong and powerful man of the house. Oh, because, it's just awful. Oh, she's having a drink now, the dog, just to disrupt a little bit more. Go to sleep. I was a strong and powerful man of the house, protective of my wife and kids, the one they can turn to and know I'd be there to help, he says. Now, he says, he felt like a wreck and no longer capable of looking after my family. He finds himself breaking down and crying unexpectedly while being angry at himself. He describes feelings of shame and embarrassment. And he says his previously strong, independent, caring wife had turned into the shell of a person I don't recognise. She lies in bed tossing and turning with nightmares she can only describe as black. Yes. Tia, no. So, yeah, just goes on and on. Now we've got somebody, so he's crying in dock apparently. I don't believe this guy's crying for these people though, because, why did he drive into them in the first place? So apparently this dash cam, shows him shouting, oh, get out of the effing way and all this kind of thing. He doesn't care about these people. Cares about himself, cares about his family probably, but he doesn't care about these people. And him sobbing in dock, he had to be practically forced into pleading guilty. In one read out earlier, Robin Dark, 62, describes having been left lying in the street for hours, freezing, in agony and terrified after the attack. He endured 5 operations due to complications from an open wound on his ankle, and he is now permanently scarred and disfigured. And Doyle sobs as Mr. Dark's complications, it goes through you, doesn't it, which included a diagnosis of flesh-eating disease, are detailed. Oh, the poor guy. Then we've got a teenager, 17 at the time of the attack, says he was left bedbound and reliant on his mum to get dressed after the incident, and it took 2 months to regain mobility. I mean, I think what definitely strikes me about this particular case is it's totally indiscriminate, isn't it? There's people that goes from a baby to sort of like pensioners, elderly people. There's no age. It's here. Go in the bathroom. Go in the bathroom. You're being too naughty. If you're not going in the bathroom, don't bark. Don't bark so I'll get angry. So, it's completely indiscriminate as far as age is concerned, ranging from a baby to an elderly people. It's awful, isn't it? Just completely indiscriminate. He didn't care. Didn't even care that he was ploughing into a woman with a pushchair. God, I hope he gets a really long sentence. I hope the judge takes all that into account. The indiscriminate nature of what he did. He just didn't care. There was a pushchair there. So this teenager says his family missed out on a holiday. He didn't get to go to concerts he had tickets for. He cancelled his driving test. And he says the incident changed my life. He missed out on wages from work and he struggled with his exam. And another teenager, also 17, tells how he was left with survivor's guilt and distraught after seeing his friend injured. When you look at the how many people have been affected, you think maybe he's going to get a really, really long sentence. I hope so. Then we've got another victim, a pair of siblings. One of them was at the 2017 bombing of the Ariana concert. Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. She was at that one as well. I mean, you know, God, if that didn't put you off going out where there were crowds, and then she's took a chat, she's gone out in more crowds. She says the Liverpool attack reopened emotional wounds she thought she had overcome since, even though her physical bruises healed. And her 19-year-old brother, Ali Massi, describes having been left with emotional scars, as he thought, for 30 minutes after the attack, his family and friends were dead. I can vividly place myself just mere moments before the attack happened, and he describes hearing screams so clear before meeting the same fate just seconds later. He said, I had no time to react, but hours to think about it afterwards. So then the court is hearing of Paul Doyle's previous convictions and the circumstances of his discharge from the military. The prosecutor, Paul Greene, says the defendant enlisted in the Royal Marines in 1991 for 22 years service, a 22-year service in the Royal Marines, but he was discharged in 1993 after 22 months under SNI, which stands for Services No Longer Required. The prosecutor said that Doyle was convicted of multiple offences, both civilian and service convictions, between the ages of 18 to 22 and served time in prison. Oh, so he's not so much the innocent family man that they were making out. So he has served time in prison. So he's got a temper. He's got a violence problem, hasn't he? Because in 1989 he committed a military offence corresponding to common assault and was given 7 days detention. At the end of his 32-week training period for the Royal Marines in 1991, he also got into a scuffle with men in a nightclub. And after being thrown out, the men were waiting for him, and he got the better of them. He punched another person in the face several times and was convicted of assault and fined. He's a violent man. I wonder if there's any domestic violence with this man. In 1992, he was convicted of 2 more military offences, including using violence to a superior officer and conduct to the prejudice of good order and military discipline. And later that year, he was convicted of a military offence equivalent to criminal damage. Oh my God. And finally, Greene said that Doyle was jailed for 12 months in 1994 after biting off the ear of another man while in a fight. Oh my God. Oh my God. So he's got a history of violence, this man. Bloody hell. So all that talk of, family man, just order. He's not. I bet he's a domestic violence offender. I bet you any money. I can't believe he isn't. Can you? He's done this and he's got this history of violence. I can't believe he's never committed violence in the home. This man, he's got a problem. He has got a problem. Yeah, I think there might be more to his home life as well. So apparently he was released in May 1995, and he took steps over the next 30 years until the Liverpool attack to rehabilitate himself after a difficult early adulthood. Okay, fair enough. I mean, people do make mistakes. He's made quite a lot of mistakes though, hasn't he? He went to university, worked in positions of responsibility and had a family. And Doyle once more cried in the dock as Greene spoke. Well, in my experience, these twonks, as soon as they get caught out and seen for what they really are, that's when they cry. He's probably crying because everybody will know what the person he really is. I have got very little sympathy with this man. And just because he's crying, it means nothing, because normally these twonks do cry. and they're crying for themselves. Maybe he is crying for his family too, but you know, he wasn't crying for that baby or any of those victims that he ploughed into. Initially, he tried to say that someone had tried to get in his car with a knife. You know, So apparently a total of 134 people injured by his actions. 134 people. My God. Wow. And that's only the people that were injured. That's not like, you know, their relatives that were injured, like psychologically, or any of the people that were there. Anyway, prosecutor Paul Greeny, KC, is making submissions to the judge about the sentencing guidelines for the 31 offences he has pled guilty to. And he says the maximum sentence for 29 of the 31 offences is life imprisonment. Gosh. Now, the thing is, if he had an exemplary record, he'd never been in trouble with the law before, then you would think they're not going to give him the maximum sentence. But for a man like this, who does not have a clean record, you know, who has a history of violence, is he going to end up with life imprisonment? Is he? So, because his offences include GBH to 9 people with intent, wounding 3 others, and attempting to cause GBH to 17 others. But the court hears that those 29 victims were not all of those who were injured, with the charges being selected to make the trial manageable and provide adequate sentencing powers to the judge. I think he might get life, you know. I really do. Yeah, I think I think maybe he's looking more at 20 years. I hope so. I do hope so. The prosecutor says that police recorded a total of 134 crimes, including injury of some form, from being struck directly or knocked to the ground by someone else who was struck. So this is what the prosecutor's asking for. Now, they've gone on a short break, apparently. And then, of course, his lawyer is going to come out and do the mitigating. What are the mitigating circumstances going to be? You know, so there's your summary there. The victim impact statements have been read. He started crying when he heard of one of the victims' flesh-eating disease. One of the victims was also at the Ariana Grande concert bombing. Another one said her 11-year-old wakes up crying from nightmares. Then his previous convictions were read out in court. And this will be crucial. The dash cam was shown, his dash cam, where he was heard swearing at the crowd. And that apparently generated gasps in the courtroom. I think that'll be very relevant to how the judge looks at this, don't you? You know, because when it's seen in flagranti how aggressive, how angry he was, that might affect his sentence, mightn't it? And the background, Doyle initially denied 31 charges, but changed his pleas last month. An injured victim tells Sky News of carnage on the day of the attack. And I wonder if we can see some videos while we're waiting for the court to come back, I wonder. Oh yeah, let's have a look at this video. Yeah, everybody thought it was terrorists.
Oh, there's people lying about all over the place. And it was like a bomb had gone off. I mean, you've seen the video footage. It was just carnage everywhere. Yeah, and crying and screaming. And I mean, I did hear all the thumps off the car as people were getting knocked off it, as he was running people over. When I was walking with my youngest son, and we were together, and we were walking up, and I heard shouting, then I heard screaming, and then there was like people come flying towards me, and then bang! I just stepped off the curb, and the car wheel crushed my foot on the curb.
God.
And I don't know if I went out for a second or two or whatever, and then I came round, and my youngest son, he came round and he started crying because he thought I'd lost my foot.
Oh.
And it was just the pain was absolutely incredible. It was a degloving injury. It burst all the skin off my heel, and then after that, they stitched me up in the hospital, and I came back home after that. And the next day it was really, really painful, and then the day after that it was excruciating pain. So we went to A&E at Chester, and it was like life or limb. They had to try and save my life or my leg.
Just going back to the incident, you described what happened. I mean, do you have any recollection of what was going through your mind? What you?
Well, I thought a terrorist. That's the first thing that came to my head, and my son. Who else would do a thing like that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really thought it was a terrorist incident.
It's almost worse than a terrorist incident, isn't it? Because, terrorist incidents, of course, they're horrible, but they're doing it for a reason, I suppose, at least, a reason that they think it's important. What is his reason? I agree with you, David. I don't think there are any now that I've heard his history as well. It's not a mental health thing, is it? It's not just out of the blue, like we talked about at the time. That was a bit like that film Falling Down, when someone just completely lost it. Michael Douglas, wasn't it, who played the part? It's not like that, is it? He's got a history of aggression, and how could you? You just try and get your head around it. You sat in a car, you've ended up sort of. So I think this probably happened certainly happened to me before. Suddenly in a sort of, it's not exactly a city, but a town near where I live, driving in there, forgetting it was Easter, and it was Easter parades and things, and getting stuck, like literally for hours. And I had the big dog in the car, the German Shepherd. She was panting in the back. I was only supposed to be just popping there and popping back out again, and ended up sitting in traffic like for hours. But I didn't plough into all the people to move them out of the way. I mean, you just wouldn't do that, would you? I mean, who would even think about doing that? Who would think? Literally, you might be thinking, oh, can I pop, cut down that corner? Can I go up this one-way street? Can I go ways that, go through a traffic light that shouldn't really go through? Those are the sort of things that you might consider, even though you shouldn't. But who would think, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just plough through all these people that are in my way. Nobody would think that. So, I don't think there are any mitigating circumstances either. So apparently he's been warned that he would be facing a custodial sentence of some length. I just go to this BBC one now. Where are we? Where's it gone? I was just reading. Oh, so his wife is a teacher. Lived with his wife. See how he says lived. He's not going back home, is he? He's going to get a custodial sentence, and it may well be 20 years. So he lived with his wife, Alison, and their children in a quiet cul-de-sac. He was said to have stopped for well-liked by his neighbours. Well, they say that about, Ted Bundy was well-liked. Lots of serial killers are well-liked. Lots of criminals are well-liked. You know what, these people, we've talked about this before, they walk amongst us. You know, they do not, you know, they're not sort of like, you know, they don't look like what they are. They just look like normal people. You know, I mean, I think, you know, I think I'm a bit of a hothead, like as far as road rage is concerned and stuff. I think most people are, you know. Hi, Rena. You know, most people are a bit hot-headed, but this is much. This is why I can't be. Was he not? Had he not taken anything? You know, or was he not drunk? I don't think he was. But, you know, if that's him on a normal day when he's in a, you know, without alcohol, without drugs, you know, what would he be like with alcohol and drugs? Do you know what I mean? He's like scary enough just on a normal day. So he's said to have stopped for chats while walking his dog near his home in the Croxteth area of Liverpool. He was believed to have shunned drugs and alcohol and was heavily into running and cycling. Gosh. Perhaps he needed a few drugs and alcohol. Maybe he would have been better off with a bit of alcohol or a few drugs. God. Residents were mystified about how a very good neighbour had come to cause such carnage on the 26th of May. So he'd lived there 10 years. His neighbours thought he was, you know, nice. Anyway, so let's see what's happening at the moment. Are they back yet? So these are from yesterday, these reports, but it's saying that he agreed to give his friend Dave Clark and his family a lift into the city centre to watch the parade. And he was initially motivated by kindness that day. And that serves to make what he did later more staggering. Mr. Clark and his family arrived at his home at 12:34 and they departed at 12:41. They spoke about house prices, schools, football, cars, IT, films, family matters. And he said the journey was perfectly ordinary, even mundane. And Greeny said that dashcam footage from that journey, which showed Doyle driving calmly, demonstrated he was well aware of the traffic management measures that were in place on that stretch of road. It's a very odd thing, isn't it? Very, very strange. So this is what Doyle said apparently in his police interviews. He said he was driving into town to collect his friend and he was moving slowly. He says a man with ginger hair became very aggressive and tried to open his car's door. And he said, he told officers he saw a group of men by a pub. And he said, I swear one of them had a knife by his right thigh. And as I got my second hand on and pulled the door, I don't know if it was a bottle or glass. I think it hit me here because I've got a cut there. But at the same time, all the alcohol went in my eyes and face. And he said he feared for his life and went into a blind panic and decided to head for an ambulance up ahead. Yeah, I don't believe that. I'll tell you what he did. He thought that when he thought if he could sneak in behind that ambulance, he'd be able to find a way through. That's what he thought. He just didn't want to wait. Then I had like visors on, or I just blacked out, but all of a sudden I got to where the ambulance was. And I realised that someone was at the side of the car, and I just thought, this is totally horrific. And then I just pulled the car to a stop. But he didn't, did he? Somebody jumped in there and stopped the car. He did not stop the car. He tried to carry on going. So he's a liar as well, isn't he? He is a liar. Oh, so there's a police officer that got run over as well. Inspector Emma Haffenden suffered an elbow injury when she was knocked down by Doyle as he reversed his car. I've now developed a fear of vehicles reversing due to what happened to me and believing I was going to die. I believe that this has been the worst incident I have ever dealt with in 21 years as a police officer. I saw a pram with no baby inside and I thought the worst. I truly believe people had died. I was trying to make sense of the chaos. Gosh. I mean, yeah, he's headed for a massive sentence, isn't he? We read those, I think. Oof. Oh, another post. Right, so we're going to hear from his barrister now about the defence mitigation. So it'll take a couple of minutes for it to come up on here. So before that, I just want to see that bit that I was just going to... Yeah, so he bit the ear off a sailor in a drunken brawl. I mean, that's extreme violence as well, isn't it? I mean, this violence, you get into it, men tend to get into fights, don't they, when they've had a drink and that. But to bite off someone's ear is a little bit more than just getting into a fight, isn't it? How many of you out there have ever bit off anybody's ear? You might have been in a fight when you were young, but how many people have actually bit off someone's ear? Well, I'll tell you, one of my sisters, her husband, ex-husband, he did that. He bit off a bouncer's ear, but he was a total Fruit Loop. Do you know what I mean? He was a domestic violence perpetrator, and he was always fighting ever since he was 16 years old, and he did that. He bit the ear off a bouncer because he was a psycho. So, that's it. You've got, that's not just getting into a drunken fight, when you've got a few drinks inside you, a shouting match and a few punches. That's biting someone's ear off. That's like not normal, is it? So the Marines chucked him out. So he might have had all that time. Oh, so I wanted to talk about this. Yeah, this guy who jumped into his car and managed to bring it to a stop. He's a former soldier, isn't he? Daniel Barr. He said, I've had my fair share of high-pressure, traumatic and dangerous situations, and these include tours of Iraq as a soldier, actively searching for explosive devices, as well as other struggles and traumas since leaving the forces. And all of those traumas I've kept underlying for years. I've managed to keep them under wraps. But since that day, it's brought everything to the surface. I can no longer put a mask on and carry on as normal. He's described struggling to sleep and finding himself quick to anger. And he said, my family have noticed this change in me. This is the guy who managed to stop the car. This is his victim impact statement. Oh. So some of those listening in the public gallery are shaking their heads as they hear about Paul Doyle's previous offences, including biting a sailor's head off in a fight. Head off. Sorry, not head. No, it wasn't quite that bad. He bit their ear off. That's over the top, isn't it? That is definitely over the top. Okay, so here's the mitigation speech just started. He begins by his KC, Simon Socker, KC, who represents Paul Doyle, begins by saying he is horrified by his actions. He is remorseful, ashamed, and deeply sorry for all those who have suffered. He accepts full responsibility. He expects no sympathy. Well, I hope he doesn't get any. I really do hope he doesn't get any. I wonder if his wife's hoping that he doesn't as well. So anyway, I'm going to go back over to Sky News. Just want to show this video.
A former Royal Marine who hit more than 100 people with his car at a Liverpool parade has pled guilty to 31 charges against him. More than 1 million fans were gathered in the city centre to celebrate the team's Premier League victory before Paul Doyle began deliberately driving into the crowds. The victory parade on the 26th of May started at 2:30 in the afternoon. Celebrations were in full swing as fans waited to see Liverpool stars come through the city on an open-top bus.
You know, this was the day. You know, this is how this day should be remembered. It will be forever remembered for what this man did, not for what should be remembered for.
Just after 6 p.m, as the parade ended, the crowd was leaving the waterfront when Doyle drove into a group of fans on Water Street. Footage shows the moment the car collided with the crowds before fans surrounded the vehicle, hitting it repeatedly. Rob Dark had gone to the parade with his 2 sons, but was left with life-changing injuries.
Well, I was walking with my youngest son, and we were together, and we were walking up, and I heard shouting, then I heard screaming, and then there was like people come flying towards me, and then bang. I just stepped off the curb, and the car wheel crushed my foot on the curb. And the pain was absolutely incredible. I thought, terrorist, that's the first thing that came into my head. And my son, who else would do a thing like that?
Police say Doyle's car collided with more than 100 people in just 7 minutes. The 54-year-old father of 3 from Croxteth in Liverpool was arrested the same day. 134 people were injured in the attack, including children.
God,
the youngest, a 6-month-old baby boy. Paul Doyle cried in court as he admitted all 31 charges against him, including causing and attempting to cause grievous bodily harm and dangerous driving. Prosecutors said his deliberate actions brought chaos to the community.
Driving a vehicle into a crowd is an act of calculated violence. This was not a momentary lapse by Paul Doyle. It was a choice he made that day, and it turned celebration into mayhem.
Paul Doyle was told to expect a lengthy custodial term when he is sentenced for the offences in December.
So I think there's been another post. Hang on. So yeah, horrified and ashamed, expects no sympathy. I hope he doesn't get any. There was something else. He said he accepts his driving caused the crowd to react, including throwing liquid at his car and a camping chair thrown through his window. But the decision to turn towards the crowd wasn't warranted or proportionate, the barrister continues. Mr. Soka says Doyle went to the parade to be kind to a friend and his friend's children who he was going to pick up. And the incident was unexpected and incomprehensible. He says the car became dangerous, but it's not a case where it was selected beforehand to be used as a weapon. And he says that Doyle is appalled by his own conduct. Well, the only mitigating circumstance he's got, as far as I'm concerned, is it obviously wasn't planned. You know, it wasn't a planned attack, was it? He didn't go out that morning thinking he was going to, run into all these people. That's the only mitigating circumstance he's got in my eyes. You couldn't say he planned it beforehand. But, you know, it's the most ridiculous thing. You know, as soon as he was in that crowd, he should have just sat there. He should never have followed the ambulance through. I don't care what he says. I think he snuck in behind that ambulance, hoping he could find a quick way out. You know, but he knew what was going on that day because he supposedly was going to pick up his friend. Where did he, it just doesn't make sense, does it? Because if you were going to pick up your friend from somewhere like that, you'd say to them, go to the outskirts of it. You know, you'd look into where you could, you know, drive to and where was blocked off. And you'd say to your friend, go and wait outside, I don't know, H&M or wherever, you know, you could go, and I'll pick you up there as I go past. You know, you just ask your friend to walk out of the centre a bit, away from everything. Anyway, he says the car became dangerous, but it's not a case where it was selected beforehand to be used as a weapon. And that's true. He didn't deliberately, but he used it as a weapon in the moment. And he knew when he drove into that crowd, it would cause terrible injuries. I mean, he was indiscriminate. Babies, old people, men, women, you know. Anyway, he said he's appalled by his own conduct, which was utterly unexpected for him and all who knew him well. Well, not really, not if he'd already bitten off somebody's ear in a fight. It's not completely unexpected then, is it, really? Is it on live? Let's have a look. Oh, it's not live yet, because they'll go live when the actual verdict is read out, won't they? That's when they'll go live. Let's go back to the BBC. Oh my God, are the consequences of Doyle's actions not as grave as they might have been? Yeah, but that's only an accident. This is not a case in which there was targeting, as it were, he argued. I emphasise that relativistic submissions are deeply unattractive. What are you talking about, man? But it must be said that when looked at individually, sadly, much more serious injuries are often before the court. Is this supposed to be mitigating circumstances? And he said that these submissions were not. Is he going to say that his mitigating circumstances, it could have been worse? Is that what he's trying to say? That it feels like that's what he's trying to say. Oh, well, it could have been worse. He said those submissions were not intended to diminish the suffering of any victim, but he suggests that GBH can often involve paralysis, blindness, or other permanent conditions. And Mr. Socker said Doyle accepted it was extremely fortunate that the consequences of his actions were not as grave as they might have been. Yeah, I'm not having that as mitigating circumstances, or it could have been worse. I don't, you know, how can that be a mitigating circumstance? God, just like saying, oh, well, yeah, I tried to murder my wife, but she survived, so it could have been worse. She could be dead. Just don't like that at all, I'm afraid. Now then, bit by bit, it's going to come out what they're saying. I'm just going to have a little break now. When I say a break, I'm staying live. I'm going to put a video on just about my, you know, a word from our sponsors, which of course is me. I'm the only sponsor that I've got. I'm going to play, if you're looking for a nice Christmas present to buy someone this year, why not buy my book? I just need to put something on for a couple of minutes while I just go off for a bathroom break and then come back. Now, I don't know. I don't know if, where is it? I don't know if we'll get a sentence today. I think we will, but they may break for lunch first, but we'll see. Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Did you ever want to know a little bit more about me and my background, how I came to become interested in true crime, how I ended up in Spain being a Spanish teacher? If you want to know a little bit about me, a little bit more about me as a person, you can find my book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, on any Amazon site, wherever you live in the world. And I believe that everyone has a story to tell, and this is my story. So it's the story of how I grew up in Manchester in the UK on a council estate, and very humble beginnings, and my journey through personal tragedies, disastrous romances, and triumphs to become a single mum, a Spanish teacher, and an interpreter living in Spain, and eventually a YouTuber reporting on true crime. So it details my various experiences with people and places over 20 years of teaching, over 20 years now. Ooh, where did that go? Of teaching Spanish and interpreting through the backdrop of the recession, financial uncertainty, severe flooding, and living through COVID. I hope you will find it funny, sad, amazing, silly, serious, and stranger than fiction at times. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to make you angry at least once. I hope to make you cry at least twice, and I hope to make you laugh many, many times. So thank you for all your support on my YouTube channel, and if you want to know a little bit more about me as a person, then you can find out there. So thank you so much. See you very soon in the next video. And as always, till then, may your God go with you. Bye. Hello, I'm back. Right, let's have a look. I think something else came on there. Where's that? Thought something else came up there. Okay, yeah. So apparently Doyle took months to recognise mentally what he did. And his lawyer said he's appalled by his own conduct. The spiralling effect of his conduct was utterly unexpected by him and utterly unexpected by all those who know him well. There's been a period of denial. There has clearly been an avoidance of reality. And that's a well-recognised phenomenon when an individual is involved in an unexpected event such as this. This is all cojones, in my opinion. I think he's going to get a massive sentence, because I don't think this defence is going to swing it. Even when it was his responsibility. The defendant wasn't able immediately to reconcile the man that he has been for the last 30 years with the way he behaved on the 29th of May. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I don't believe that just suddenly came out of the blue. I bet, I know, so he's behaved himself for 30 years. And then suddenly, just out of the blue, just because he couldn't, get through as quick as he wanted to. And it's not even a mega thing, is it? It's not as if he got into an argument with someone, or he couldn't, just because he couldn't get through the crowds as quick as he wanted to, he did this massive thing. I don't believe that that's all he's done in 30 years. That's probably all he's been caught for. What has he been taken? There's more to this man. I think. I don't believe for a minute that in 30 years he hasn't done anything wrong after the things he did before, and then suddenly doing this. Don't believe it. Sorry, just don't. It's a load of rubbish. The defendant wasn't able immediately to reconcile the man that he has been for the last 30 years with the way he behaved on the 26th of May, in the same way that nobody who knows him well could believe it. Neither could he. For some time. Oh, the sentence. Now, that might be live on Sky. Let's have a look. He's sentencing him. Surely that'll be live on Sky. Here we go.
With such persistence and disregard for human life defies ordinary understanding. This was not a terrorist attack, as some feared at the time, nor was it caused by any mechanical defect in the vehicle. You were not under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and you were an experienced driver familiar with the car. You claimed in police interviews to have acted in panic life due to the crowd's behaviour. That account was demonstrably false. The position should be stated clearly that the crowd did not cause this incident. They reacted to it. Faced with a vehicle being driven directly at them, accelerating, reversing, and striking multiple people, they had no idea who you were, why you were driving in that manner, or whether this was a deliberate attack of an even more serious nature. Their responses, including shouting, striking the vehicle, and in some cases breaking windows, were the instinctive actions of frightened people trying to protect themselves and others, desperate to stop a moving threat that they could not understand. Those actions were not acts of aggression, they were acts of fear. That the chaos that unfolded was caused solely by your driving, and any attempt to place responsibility on the public or the Liverpool supporters present would be unfair and wholly unfounded. Your actions caused horror and devastation on a scale not previously encountered by this court. The indictment identifies 29 victims in counts 3 to 31, but that figure significantly understates the true extent of the harm. The prosecution quite properly limited the number of counts to ensure the case remained manageable for a jury. In reality, well over 100 people were struck or injured, many of them seriously, and the victim personal statements demonstrate that the impact extended far beyond those named on the indictment. That parents and children, police officers, students, tourists, and passers-by were all caught up in the events which many believed in the moment to be a mass casualty terror attack. The physical injuries caused were wide-ranging and in many cases severe. They extended from complex, life-changing harm, including multiple fractures, necrotizing infection, and permanent disability, to dozens of cases of concussion, significant bruising, and persistent mobility problems. That several victims were trapped beneath your vehicle. Others required lengthy hospital admissions, repeated surgical procedures, and months of assistance from family members or carers. For older and more vulnerable victims, the resulting loss of independence has been profound and enduring. The psychological harm was no less serious. Across the victim personal statements, there emerges a consistent pattern of trauma, nightmares, flashbacks, panic attacks, hypervigilance, diminished confidence, and withdrawal from day-to-day activities. Many victims now avoid crowds or busy roads and city centres. Some avoid even family gatherings. The police officers who attended the scene have been left with PTSD, intrusive memories, and significant disruption to their working lives. Children have developed anxiety, nightmares, separation fears, and, in one case, an increase in epileptic seizures. What should have been a day of communal celebration has been instead left as a lasting legacy of fear, injury, and loss across this community. The overall harm is exceptional, not only in the sheer number of victims and the seriousness of their injuries, but also in the depth, duration, and human reach of the trauma you inflicted. Families were separated in the chaos. Parents were convinced their children had been killed. Children saw their parents unconscious or bleeding. And many people searched desperately for loved ones, not knowing whether they were alive. As Superintendent Earlham sets out, your actions also had a significant impact on the wider city. A large, sterile crime scene had to be established, forcing businesses to close, disrupting transport and causing substantial financial loss. Some premises became makeshift triage centres. Staff were distressed and normal operations could not resume for days. The effects were felt far beyond the immediate victims. following your arrest, that you were interviewed under caution on a number of occasions. During those interviews, you failed to provide any credible or truthful explanation for your driving. The accounts you offered were inconsistent, implausible, and plainly contradicted by the objective evidence, including extensive CCTV and body-worn footage. In particular, your suggestions of confusion, loss of control, or momentary panic were demonstrably untrue. You did not accept responsibility for your actions, nor did you acknowledge the obvious risk you created or the harm you caused. You sought instead to minimize or deflect blame, and you showed no insight into the terror experienced by those you drove at and over. Although I can only do so in brief summary form, it is important that I refer individually to each of the victims named on the indictment. That they can be assured that I have read with care all of the impact statements that have been provided. Looking at each count individually then, count 3, Jack Trotter was 22 at the time of the incident and was struck by your vehicle, suffering soft tissue injury to his left calf and a significant exacerbation of a pre-existing back condition. He describes ongoing pain, restricted movement, and significant psychological harm. Count 4, John Evans, was 47 and was hit and thrown onto the bonnet. He suffered pain to his right leg and reports psychological symptoms arising from the incident. Count 5, Scott Dolan, was 36 and sustained injuries to his right knee, lower back, and right hand. He was unable to work for approximately 2 months and continues to experience flashbacks and psychological distress linked to the accident.
Where's the sound gone? Oh, where's the sound gone?
This is Sky News, and we are live at the sentencing of Paul Doyle, the former Royal Marine and father of 3 who drove his Ford Galaxy into crowds in Liverpool. This was during celebrations for Liverpool's Premier League victory in May.
Helen Gilmore was 51. She sustained a fractured left fibula, a sprained ankle, extensive soft tissue injuries, and bruising to her elbow. She describes lasting pain, reduced, and a persistent emotional impact on both herself and her family.
No, it's gone again.
This is the sentencing of Paul Doyle. He was the father of 3 who drove his car into crowds at Liverpool City Centre.
Jacqueline McLaren was aged 60 and sustained a fractured left ankle. And since the incident, she has experienced disturbed sleep, recurrent flashbacks, and a persistent fear of crowded places, significantly affecting her daily life. Count 11. Anna Belonozenko was 43 and had, with her family, previously fled the war in Ukraine. She sustained a serious fracture to her left knee, requiring surgery involving plates and screws and a 9-day stay in hospital. She continues to suffer chronic pain, restricted mobility, and profound psychological trauma. Count 12, Jamie Fagan was 26 and suffered injuries to his left arm, right elbow, and back. He describes persistent discomfort and intrusive memories, replaying the events repeatedly in his mind.
Won't it? Oh.
The sentencing of Paul Doyle, the judge at Liverpool Crown Court, is going through some of the victim statements from that day back in May. We'll go back to that sentencing now.
24. He was struck by your vehicle and was on the ground behind it as you reversed towards his head. He managed to move out of the way, but sustained cuts and grazes to his left leg, his left arm, and right hand. Count 15, James Vernon, was 33. He was a paramedic responding to the emergency. He sustained grazes to both hands and his left knee, together with hip pain. He describes ongoing psychological symptoms, including disturbed sleep. Count 16, Simon Nash. 52, was thrown into the air, sustained a significant head laceration, 4 fractured ribs and extensive abrasions. He was unable to work for months afterwards and describes lasting physical pain and psychological impact. Count 17, Teddy Everson, was aged only 6 months.
Oh,
He was in a
poor
pram at the time, which was struck during your driving. Remarkably, he did not sustain physical injury. Count 18, Cherie Aldridge, aged 36, suffered a severe degloving injury to her left thigh, requiring an 18-day.
So he's going to go through. So, do you know, I've been trying to put comments in the comment center, and YouTube keeps rejecting all my comments. And all it was like, oh, definitely a miracle that nobody was killed. So as the judge carries on going through all the different victims. So don't forget, there was over 100 people actually injured. And the police cut down the amount of people, you know, actual charges, so that it could be manageable for a jury to cope with. So I think 41 charges were actually brought. Now it seems like every now and again they seem to be suspending the feed. Maybe it's when the judge is saying things that are too much for Sky News. I don't know. But I presume they'll keep going back to it because we want to hear that's what we're here for, to hear the final sentencing. But there's probably a little way to go yet, because he seems to be going through with at least one comment on each of the victims. And there are so many victims even cut down. You know, he really is going to get a long sentence, isn't he? When you look at it like that, the judge seems sort of like angry with him. Now it's come out about his previous convictions.
Count 22, Robin Dark, was 61 and suffered a deep wound to his heel requiring 10 stitches. That the wound became infected, leading to 5 surgical procedures, 9 nights in hospital, 3 months in a wheelchair, and permanent scarring.
God.
He describes his retirement as having been utterly ruined. Count 23, Sam Alexander, was 31 and sustained a fractured ankle and multiple fractures to the midfoot, together with cuts and grazes. He describes ongoing pain, reduced mobility, and feelings of guilt that he could not protect his partner. Count 24, Hannah O'Neill, aged 30, sustained a fractured ankle which continues to affect her mobility. She describes a profound loss of confidence and emotional distress, with her wedding plans being postponed as a result. Count 25, Stefan Detlaff, was 73 and suffered 4 broken ribs, together with cuts and bruising, and required an inpatient admission to hospital for 5 days. He describes continuing psychological symptoms affecting both himself and his family. Count 26, Christine Zeeks, was 66 and sustained 6 broken ribs, a hemothorax, subcutaneous emphysema, fractures to her fingers, and a wrist fracture, and she was in hospital for 4 days. Count 27, David Price, was 44 and suffered a laceration above his right eye, a swollen cheek and black eye, together with back pain and cuts to his knees. He experienced shock and distress after being struck by the car. Count 28, Susan Pacey, was aged 77. She was one of those who were recovered from underneath the vehicle. She is fortunate not to have been killed. She sustained multiple fractures, including to her forearm, collarbone, pelvis, spine, and ribs, together with a broken nose. Multiple bruises and grazes to many parts of her body and head, and she required surgery and spent 27 days in hospital. And she continues to suffer severe physical limitations and psychological stress. Count 29, Aaron Cothliff, was 17 he was found under the vehicle and sustained extensive abrasions, bruising to both legs, a sprained knee, shoulder bruising, and a small fracture to the tibia, complicated by infection. His mobility was affected for months, his education disrupted, and he describes significant psychological impact. Count 30, Ethan Gilland was 17. He also was recovered from beneath the vehicle. He sustained a large area of gravel rash to his back, abrasions to his knee and ankle, and a soft tissue injury to his leg as a result of being struck. Count 31, James Weston, aged 40, was struck by the vehicle and suffered cuts and grazes together with pain to his hip, elbow, and knee. In order properly to understand this case, it is important to recognize that the offences you have admitted were not the result of momentary recklessness or a panicked reaction. The truth, as captured on your own dashcam and multiple CCTV and mobile phone recordings, is that you lost your temper in a rage, determined to force your way through the crowd regardless of the consequences. By your pleas of guilty, you admit that you intended to cause serious harm to achieve that end, even to children. The task of determining the appropriate sentence in this case has been far from straightforward, not least due to the unprecedented nature of the incident and the sheer number of victims involved. Nonetheless, I am required to determine the seriousness of your offending, and in particular to assess your level of culpability and the nature of the harm you caused by reference to the relevant Sentencing Council guidelines for each type of offence. Also, although a large number of people were affected by your actions, I make it plain that you will be sentenced only in respect of the offences charged on this indictment. Turning to the guidelines for the offences of causing or attempting to cause grievous bodily harm and wounding with intent, it is common ground, and I have no doubt that this was Category A offending in terms of culpability. That conclusion is indicated by a combination of factors. Firstly, all of your victims were vulnerable because they were pedestrians of all ages and abilities, confronted by an oncoming vehicle travelling at speed while hemmed in by dense crowds. Secondly, you used your motor vehicle as a highly dangerous weapon, or at least as a weapon equivalent. When deliberately driven into a crowd of people, the car was capable of inflicting grave and fatal injuries, and that is precisely the risk you chose to create. And thirdly, there was an element of persistence in your actions. You had repeated opportunities to stop, but you chose instead to continue regardless. Some of your victims suffered injuries that fall within the highest level of harm, Category 1. That is because the impact resulted in permanent injury, including psychological condition, that has had a substantial and long-term effect on their ability to carry out their normal day-to-day activities. Examples of this level of harm are to be found in Count 28, Susan Pacey, and Count 22, Robin Drake. Others suffered injuries falling just short of this level of harm. The starting point for a single Category 1A offence is 12 years custody, with a range up to 16 years. The starting point for a single Category A2 offence is 7 years custody. Of course, I am not concerned here only with a single offence. There are a number of aggravating factors not already taken into account. You have a number of previous convictions. You are now age 54. Between the ages of 18 and 22, you accumulated a number of convictions, including for offences of violence, one of which resulted in a sentence of 12 months imprisonment. Those convictions were interwoven with your short period of military service from which you were discharged on the basis that your services were no longer required. But although you are not a man of previous good character, and perhaps have always had issues with your temper, you have not, though, committed any other offence for many years, and I do not increase your sentence, therefore, because of this antecedent history.
Oh,
The offences were committed during a major public celebration in the city of Liverpool, transforming an occasion of collective enjoyment into one of fear and disruption, and causing significant and lasting harm to the life and reputation of the city. That is a further aggravating factor. Also, there was adverse impact on city centre businesses, and the offences were committed in the presence of children, and some of the victims were very young and others were elderly. There are, of course, other important factors that I must have regard to, factors which reflect personal mitigation. As I have observed, after a troubling start to your adult life, you did turn your life around. You went to university and have had a successful career within the cyber security industry, and you are married with 2 sons. I have read a substantial number of character references written by family members, friends, colleagues, and professional associates who have known you over many years and in different settings, including your wife, your close family, former colleagues in the technology sector, neighbours, and community contacts. Collectively, those references describe you as a devoted husband and father, a reliable and supportive family member, and a person who has lived a disciplined and responsible life for many years. That you are consistently described as hardworking, kind, generous with your time, and willing to help others. Several referees speak of your professional success, that your mentorship of younger colleagues, and your involvement in community and sporting activities with children. These people are as bewildered as everyone else at the shocking events of the 26th of May, describing it as wholly out of character. They also refer to your expressions of regret. I accept all of that, and I recognise that the sentence I am bound to pass will have this evidence of positive good character can have only limited effect on the sentence when the court is dealing with offences of this gravity. In my judgment, the presence of multiple high culpability factors, the balance of aggravating and mitigating factors, and the sheer scale of the offending justifies a sentence very significantly above the relevant category range for an A1 offence. You are also entitled to some reduction in your sentence to reflect your guilty pleas. I appreciate that this will have been a difficult decision, and the circumstances in which you have been detained have not made legal conferences straightforward. But the evidence against you on many, if not all, of the charges was overwhelming, and you could have given an indication of acceptance of responsibility much earlier than you did. The relevant guideline provides that where, as here, guilty pleas are entered at the commencement of the trial, the reduction should be no more than 10%. I am not persuaded that you should receive greater credit than that. Because many of these offences are specified offences, I am required to consider the issue of dangerousness. That is, whether there is a significant risk of you committing further specified offences, and if so, whether there is a significant risk of you causing serious harm as a result. Given the highly unusual circumstances of this case, your general character, and your lack of previous convictions for similar behaviour, I am not satisfied that you do present such a risk. The further matter which requires to be considered in this case is the issue of totality. In a case such as this, I cannot simply take a figure for one offence and multiply it by a factor of 29.
why?
A proper balance must be struck between the acknowledgement
Oh my
of your
God.
multiple and very serious offending and the imposition of a just and proportionate sentence. I take all of the Section 18 offences as the lead offences, and all sentences will run concurrently.
Oh,
The total sentences on the indictment. In the circumstances, the total sentence which I impose upon you is one of 21 years and 6 months imprisonment. It would have been 24 years after trial.
good.
This will comprise sentences of 21 years and 6 months on each of the 12 Section 18 grievous bodily harm and wounding offences, sentences of 16 years on each of the attempted Section 18 offences, and sentences of 20 months on each of the offences of affray and dangerous driving. As I have said, each of those sentences will run concurrently, making a total sentence of 21 years and 6 months. You will serve 2/3 of that sentence in custody before you are released on licence. If you fail to abide by the conditions of your licence, you can be returned to serve some or all of the remainder of that sentence. For the offence of dangerous driving, you will also be disqualified from holding or obtaining a licence to drive, and you will be disqualified until you have passed an extended retest. Many people will think that you should never be allowed to drive again, but
Yeah.
I must also consider your prospects for rehabilitation.
Oh, couldn't give
I
a fuck.
intend to impose a disqualification from driving that will operate for a further 3 years after your eventual
Good,
release.
good.
The total period of the disqualification from today's date that comprises a combination of extension and uplift to reflect the term in custody you will serve. To spell this out, the period of discretionary disqualification is 3 years, plus 10 months extension, representing half of the custodial term for the offence of dangerous driving, plus 13 years and 6 months uplift to reflect the sentences imposed on the other offences. Because the disqualification cannot be backdated to the date you went into custody, I consider it right to reduce the discretionary period by 6 months to take account of the approximate time you have already spent in custody. The total disqualification from today's date will therefore be 16 years and 10 months. This is not intended to be a mathematical calculation, but it should ensure that upon your release, you will be subject to disqualification for a period of around 3 years. Mr. Doyle, you may now go with the officers.
Okay. Ugh. So all the way during that, I was. Oh, hang on. Let me just. All the way through that, I was trying to comment. These are the comments. This is just so that you know what YouTube wouldn't let me comment on my own thing. I tried to say good. One comment I tried to make was good. YouTube rejected your comment. This usually thinks they mean it's spam. Try and change it a bit. So then I tried to say well done. Well done. And again, they rejected my comment. This usually means, so just for people, because I know sometimes when comments disappear and people say, oh, my comments disappeared and they think I've taken it off or whatever. This is what YouTube do. This is my own channel. And I was trying to say, well done and good when we could see that the judge was going to come up with a big sentence. And YouTube wouldn't, just rejected it. And then I tried to say again, that's good. YouTube rejected it. Rejected all those comments. That's YouTube. Crazy. Anyway, so let me know what you think about the sentence. So it was 21 years, something. Yeah, Angel, it's ridiculous. Yeah, honestly. But they're not even bad things. So I'm the creator. But it's telling me they think it's spam. But they're not even bad comments. Good. That's good. Well done. it's no bad language. So, don't be surprised if your comments disappear, because you just have no idea what YouTube are going to decide. Anyway, so let me know what you think in comments about whether you think that was a good sentence. I think it was a good sentence, personally. I mean, it could have been more, of course, but it wasn't. I think he should have taken into account the fact of him biting someone's ear off. I know it was a long time ago, but it's combined with everything else. So it wasn't only that he bit somebody else's ear off, was it? He had other offences besides that. He was thrown out of the Royal Marines because of his violence. I think all that should have been taken into account. So I know maybe he's had 30 years, he hasn't done anything. As far as we know, doesn't mean just because he's not been prosecuted for any other violent acts, does not mean to say he hasn't performed any other violent acts. Maybe he's just been a bit clever and now he kept them to himself. I don't believe for a minute that he's gone 30 years without doing anything and then suddenly he's done this. I don't believe that. I really do not believe it. Anyway, he's got over 20 years, hasn't he? But the judge said he would serve 2/3 of it before he was allowed out on license. So that'd be 14 years. So he's going to do 14 years before he gets the chance to come out in license. He's in his early 50s, so he'll be hurtling towards 70 then when he comes out. Yeah, he bit someone's ear off, Angel, many years ago. So he's got a history of violence. Yeah, and then this driving ban, and I think that's good. It should just take his license off him, really. When somebody's done something like he's done, they lose the right to drive, surely. Surely 140 people injured, over 140 people injured. Surely he's forfeited the right to drive forever. He should have just have his license taken off him. But anyway, he hasn't. So, we'll see. Anyway, I'm quite looking forward now to Brian Walsh's sentencing. So we've had it. So although it's been a horrible week in a lot of ways for things that have been happening, I found yesterday was just literally soul destroying. My heart was so heavy. I just thought I just can't do this anymore. Because it was so awful. But I feel a bit better now. I feel like we've seen some justice there. And I'm not sure when Brian's going to be sentenced. He'll be sentenced soon. And hopefully he's going to get life without parole. So we've seen a little bit of justice this year, as well as all these awful things that have been going on. But anyway, I've got to go. So listen, thank you for staying with me. Thank you for caring about these victims of the Liverpool attacks. He's going down, and I feel for his family, I do feel for his wife, and I feel for his kids. They'll know the true story of the last 30 years. Has he been that kind and good a person? I wonder, how could this just come out of nowhere? Because this isn't road rage. I think we all experience, don't we? Well, I do. I hold my hands up and say, shouting at people from a car, swearing at them. I'm not saying I'm above that. I've done it loads of times. But ramming your car into, not only into someone, but into a woman with a pushchair, indiscriminate people, causing all that havoc. No, that's not road rage. That's more than that. That is, he's deserved the sentence that he's got, I think. So listen, take care of you. As always, you are the most important person. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else, can you? I'm trying to looking for my like and subscribe, but I don't know where it is. I think we'll finish on a cheerful video. We try and cheer ourselves up. I'm not sure when I'll be back, but I'll be back as soon as any news about anything that you can rely on. And please subscribe, please like. Thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God, as always, go with you. Now, I've got I want to change the video. Hang on. I want to...
Welcome to the channel, it's Vicky Marie. Spitting out the flavor, making history. Subscribers rolling in, family feels fresh. Jump into the vibe, leave the comments, no stress. From street talks to makeup, we cover it all. Chopping up the beats, making big moves, y'all. Urban queen, got the rhythm in her veins. Flow so tight, never stepping out of lanes. Join the fam, hit that subscribe. Vicky Marie chats, we keep it live. Stay connected, watch the magic unfold. Members unite, let's strike gold. Chats blowing up like we running the game. Hip hop roots, we douse it in flame. Fresh content coming at you every week. Stay for the laugh, the wisdom, the street. Got something for everyone. Sizzle and pop, unfiltered vibes. We never gonna stop. Engage with the crew, let your voice be heard. Tune in always, spread the word. Join the fam, hit that subscribe. Vicky Marie chats, we keep it live. Stay connected, watch the magic unfold. Members unite, let's strike gold. Join the fam, hit that subscribe. Vicky Marie chats, we keep it live. Click that like if you're smiling today. Give a follow to help spread the play. Share the play with friends everywhere, so more can laugh and show they care. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide, don't hide. Join Vicky Marie's Vibe Worldwide. Tap that bell so you never miss a dose of love and endless bliss. YouTube others, search my name, Vicky Marie. Let's grow this flame. Thanks for the support. You're the best crew. Now go tell the world you know what to do. Vicky Marie. Ha ha ha. You Marie.
Ha ha ha.
Let's brag now. Click that like if you're smiling today. Give a follow to help spread the play. Share the joy with friends everywhere, so more can laugh and show they care. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide. Like, follow, share, subscribe, don't hide, don't hide. Let's grow this flame. Click that like if you're smiling today. Give a follow to help spread the play. Share the joy with friends everywhere, so more can laugh and show they care.